Welcome, everybody, to episode 19 of the AI Advantage Show. We're your hosts, Colin Episcopo and Kim Reynolds, and we've got a pretty exciting show today. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about navigating the future, what's coming in on 2024, and how you can prepare yourself for the AI revolution that is just rocking digital marketing. And Kim, I know you're very excited about today's guest. Who do we have?
I am very excited about today's guest. We have Joel Comm. So I've known Joel for quite a while through social media examiner, social media marketing world. Probably like going on 10 years maybe. But he's a true pioneer in the digital world. He's an author, a speaker, internet marketer. He created an app days and days ago, a long time ago. And I believe it was the iFart app, which is, I don't know. I think that would be an amazing claim to fame.
15 years ago, by the way. 15 years this last
Okay.
And
Yeah,
it's
so
people
he's-
still buy it.
The people do buy it. Yeah. I
People still buy
can
it.
still remember my boss discovering it. One of my favorite like bosses and mentors, and him like bringing the whole team in and being like, guys, you got to see, because he just loves fart jokes, right? It's like there's we're a creative department, and so we go to that level, and he's like, guys, this is like the best thing ever. We sat there for like 45 minutes having a meeting with the fart app. It was amazing. So thank you for
Love
that.
it. I love it. What a great story.
Well, let's hop in because we got you for an hour, so we want to take full advantage.
We do.
Take advantage of me. I'm all yours.
There you
All
go.
right, okay. All right.
First thing I'd like to know is what have you been up to? Because you have been all over the social space for such a long time, but I know that you've backed off some and still doing amazing things, but
Backed off a lot. In
Mm.
fact, I left Facebook. I still have my account, but I went dark and stopped posting, liking, commenting, sharing over 3 years ago. And
Wow.
honestly, it was one of the best decisions I could have made for my mental health. I'm just so sick of the crazy. I use Instagram not so much to post as to look at recipes and comedy and stuff. And I'm rarely on X. It's unfortunate, especially being early to social media and writing books about it and teaching so many. But I think there was a tipping point that happened probably about 6 years ago, maybe a little bit more, where I believe social media became a net loss for society. In the beginning, it was great because we can connect with people. We could find old classmates and family members and people that, might be homebound. We're able to create community with others and have a sense of connection. And then politics got involved, as it always does, and craziness and censorship. And now with the rise of TikTok, just absolutely destroying our youth. I feel like it's become a toxic sludge, and the less I'm involved in it, the happier I am. And that makes me really sad because it started out with so much promise. And thank God for Elon Musk buying Twitter, for whether you like him or not, the fact that he is for free speech and that people can now talk in the public square, I think is huge. I mean, if you disagree with that, then we basically have a human problem, not a philosophical issue, because you're just you're in the wrong. So there you go.
Bold statement. I agree, but I'm sure there are people that would challenge it. Similarly, I would
but
say
they're wrong. Those
Yeah,
people
they
are wrong. It's not even up for debate. I mean, if you are squelching the free flow of information where people can say what they want to say, then guess what? There's others in history who have taken your side. Mao, Stalin, right? Should we go on?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's why they made it the First Amendment, right? And Kim, I don't know if you felt similarly, probably around the same time, Joel. I was like the director of marketing at Social Media Examiner, and people would be like, well, what's your favorite social platform? And I'm like, guys, I'm kind of dark on them. And it would sound crazy to them, right? But I think similarly, I, was using it for work and using it for business and not personally using it. And I wasn't interested in building a personal brand. Nobody knew who I was. I was fine with that. I do my own thing, kind of live a private life. And Kim, I don't know if you feel similarly. I know you network a lot on social still. I would say maybe I'm still active on LinkedIn, but I'm kind of dark mainly on all these
Yeah.
platforms as well. Just probably around the same time as you, Joel.
I'm probably most active on LinkedIn, and even there, not terribly active. I struggle with social because part of my job is to post on social, and I personally don't feel the need to share every aspect of my life with people. In fact, I don't feel the need to share any of it. And so that makes it a little difficult when it comes to social, which is why I'm really glad that we made the pivot toward
Mm.
AI, because it allows me to stay off of social and not feel guilty.
Social is like a necessary evil for business now.
It
It
is.
is.
And that's part of the reason that I'm not creating new products and services as well, and niching them, very specifically, because I don't want to have to leverage those platforms and build an audience to sell. I just that just feels like so 2012 to me.
Yeah.
And I'm over it. So, you asked what I'm up to. About 3 years ago, I moved to Puerto Rico with Aaron and our dog Rufus, and bought a condo on the beach, and just absolutely living the dream here in Puerto Rico, in an incredible community. My neighbors are John Lee Dumas, Davin Michaels, from the marketing world. Mario Brown
cool.
is here. And those are just the people from our sphere. There's so many others. And taking advantage of the US's real tax haven. Most people don't know the benefits of living in Puerto Rico and setting up your business here. But the long and short of it is, by this being my primary residence and having my business here, my business pays 4% tax to the island. And personally, I pay 0 capital gains tax on everything. And
Wow.
so it's all legal.
Yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
and it's
But
beautiful from what I've seen too. I mean, it's
It
a
is
great place
beautiful.
to be.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
But you've got this brain that is
Yes,
that's
I do.
always thinking, and you're always creating. What are you doing now to satisfy that part of you?
Yeah,
Mm.
so that's a good question. I've been in an in-between place really since about 2 years ago. So after I got here, after pulling back from social, and the crypto currency podcast, the Bad Crypto Podcast, is still going. We're in our 7th year. But the bear market really took, the wind out of the sails
Yeah,
for a lot of
sure.
people. And you definitely lose listenership during that time. And I'm not so much about the numbers, but I want to be where people are passionate. And so we stuck with it during now 2 bull runs and 2 bear markets. We're about to enter what we believe is the next bull run here. So that's exciting. But along with that, the NFT market had really, collapsed as well. And we were very involved in that space. I've minted over 1.5 million NFTs from
Wow.
8 or 9 different projects, all but one sold out. And so that was a great run as well. But, really, I do some advisory for companies. I do the 1 podcast a week, and I look for projects where I think I can move the needle the most with the least effort, and haven't announced who it is yet publicly, or what it, the title is, but I'm helping somebody write a book that has a really large audience, and I think is going to help a lot of people. And so, it's side projects like that have my interest. I've got a 4 to 6 year life cycle. Always have as an entrepreneur, even though I've been in digital marketing for now 28 years, it's taken on a different look all the way through. At the beginning, it was building websites and putting out content. Then it was creating games, right? Then it was family friendly content. Then it was blogging. Then it's social media. Then it's live video marketing. It's YouTube, and it's speaking, and it's writing books, and it constantly transforms. And then ended up with, cryptocurrency. And I'm kind of in that space right now. Like, okay, what's next in my fun formula. And I never push it. I never, go digging to try and find it. Usually it finds me. And so I'm kind of in one of those in between places. Plus it's a big year for me. I turned 60 in May. And so that is, a
Wow.
transitional time for a man as well, to look at, because everything I've read has told me that a man's most productive years are often in his 60s. I'm like, okay, so what am I going to produce? I'm open. What do we got?
That's cool.
We're waiting to see.
Yeah,
for
very
sure.
excited.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've seen I do a lot of martial arts training and stuff like that. And I've seen guys come in around that age when they've hit
Mhm.
60 and they're like, look, I'm ready to start learning how to fight. And you're like,
Mm.
dude, that's awesome. Get in here. It's really cool. Like I don't know if there's something clicked at that age or something. We're like, hey, I've got this time, kind of retired. I'm like, I want to learn how to wrestle and learn how to box and learn how to do these things.
I get that too, because you start losing muscle mass, right? So
Mhm.
one of the things I did last year is realizing I'm going to turn 60 is I was about 40 pounds overweight, and I'm like, let's fix that. So
Yeah.
I don't know, you can see on the video
Looking pretty good.
Ooh.
much more svelte now, and that makes me happy, because you could really start to go downhill fast. So I
Yeah.
totally get it why
Yeah.
guys would start coming in and say, hey, let's work on the physique here, because there's
Yeah.
nowhere to go but downhill if I don't kind of
Yeah.
reel this in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And how is Erin doing? Because I, of course, want to know how she's doing.
She's great. I told her I was going to be on with you today. She's like, "Aw." So she's very happy here. Found, her circle of
Nice.
people, and of course, she's a social butterfly.
Yeah.
She's also working on a new podcast with a friend here as well, which has not been
nice.
announced yet. So,
Ooh,
Okay.
very cool.
Cool.
We'll have to keep an eye on that.
So we're
with-
in agreement that social sucks.
yeah.
And but there's
that sounds like a good
digital
podcast
marketing.
title.
Huh?
Yeah, social
That sounds
sucks.
like maybe we could do the Social Sucks
That's
podcast.
the spinoff.
The social sucks podcast.
It's the social sucks hour. Yeah.
But we still have our marketing is still happening.
Yep.
And I believe it is changing, it is morphing, and AI is obviously a part of that.
Huge.
What so far, we'll ask about your future thoughts soon, but what so far have you seen to be the biggest change that AI has brought about in business and marketing in specific?
Well, clearly ChatGPT has, changed everything. And I've played with ChatGPT. I've played with Midjourney. I mean, I'm able to do art now, digital art, and I can barely draw a stick figure, but I'm able to create. It used to be that people whose jobs got phased out were told to learn to code, right?
Mm-hmm.
That almost became a curse word at some point, and tell somebody to learn to code, but that's not it anymore. Yes, coding is important, and there will definitely be a marketplace for that, but I believe it's learn to prompt, right? And now it's all about being proficient in feeding the AI the right information so that it can output the right results.
Agreed.
I think it's very cool what we're seeing. I mean, I remember when I had my first computer back in 1980, there was a program on the TRS-80 called Eliza, and it was this AI psychologist. You would talk to it and it would give you back these basic replies. Tell me more about how you feel. You'd say, well, I'm mad at Bob. Tell me why you're mad at Bob, right? It would just kind of plug in and work off that to see how far it's come. Now, I think what we've come to see is that if you are not excelling in your field, when you look at the curve over here, people don't know what they're doing. Then these are average at it. And then these are the best at it over here. If you're not in that top 10% of a task, a job, a profession that AI can replicate and take over, then you're going to have to, learn to prompt, because why would people pay you? So we're seeing content changing dramatically as more and more people are using AI. We're seeing the art world change dramatically as AI art is
Mhm.
taking on a life of its own, and
Yeah.
it deserves it, because if you can use AI to create pieces that people like, then that means you've kind of cracked the code on it. But there's
Yeah.
so many tools now, and it's just
Mhm.
getting started. We're just at the front of this. You guys are probably familiar with Matt Wolf. We interviewed him on Bad Crypto, and his site futuretools.io catalogs
Mhm.
all the various tools. There's over like
Yeah.
2,600 of them right now, and it's growing daily. And I think we're going to have tens of thousands of tools here in just a couple of years. And
Oh, yeah.
so what that means is there's more opportunity for entrepreneurs and for marketers today than ever before. They've just got to discard the old ways of doing things and realize that marketing is still about putting a message out there that resonates with people. And viral marketing isn't about creating a viral campaign, but it's about creating something so compelling that other people will share it for you without
Mhm.
even being asked to do so.
Yeah.
And so these tools provide the savvy entrepreneur opportunities to do things that perhaps they couldn't do before. Like we do this podcast, I couldn't create thumbnails before. I would use some tool
Yeah.
to try and use a template, but now I could create cool images and drop some text over it, and all of a sudden I've got this beautiful thumbnail. Well,
Yeah.
that was something that I used to hire somebody to do. I don't have to do that anymore. I can do it myself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Colin and I have talked about this a lot, and that the foundation of good prompting is good communication.
Mhm.
So we're going back to a skill that used to be valued more, and then social kind of came around, and um, maybe the quality of communication declined a little bit. But now, to be a good prompter, you have to be a good communicator, and I think that that's something that a lot of people don't understand yet, and because they're still so busy hating on AI, like
Mhm.
they've bought into the myth or whatever that AI is going to take everyone's jobs. It's not. It's I mean, AI is actually creating a lot of new jobs, and there are going to be people that suffer because of AI. But
Mhm.
at the core of it, if you can learn to communicate properly and you can translate that into being a good prompter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And look, AI itself is amoral. It's neither good nor bad. It's the
Mhm.
Yeah. It's a
same thing
tool.
that we were saying about social media before that, and the web
Yeah.
before that, and cell phones and all that. It's what people do with them.
Yep.
And are there Black Mirror esque, kind of a future in what we see with AI? Yeah, I think there is, because
Yeah,
unfortunately, the problem we have is not a technology problem; it's a human
It's a
problem.
human problem. Yeah.
And
human problem.
in humans,
Yeah.
there is a small minority of human beings out there that can have a horrible impact on humanity because of their selfishness and narcissism and greed, for in lust for power, and they are going to use AI for their own benefits. And
Yeah.
are we getting into a situation where 1984 is a lot closer now than it was in 1984? I think so.
Oh yeah.
And that is that's scary. And so there's never been a better time to make sure that you are self-sufficient and able to care for you and yours.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I just read an article that was talking about this whole list of banned books that are like banned from school libraries, and 1984 was on that list. Now it's not universal; not every single school has banned that book, but even if one school bans the book, it's
Yeah.
it's it's
They
like
should ban Animal Farm too. I think they used to be mandatory reading. Should probably ban.
well,
Mm.
yeah, all the good ones, Fahrenheit 451, and all the
Yeah.
ones that really are eye opening and make you think.
All animals
Right.
are equal. Some are more equal than others.
Yeah. 2 legs good, 4 legs bad.
Bad. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of different ways we could go. There has been some controversy.
Sure. There's a little controversy out there.
There's a little controversy going on. I'll twist my
Yeah.
mustache about especially artists and graphic artists, right?
Mhm.
So I would say content creators in general too, worry about AI. I think marketers are going to be slow to adopt and things like that to their detriment, right? I agree with you. I think they need to embrace it and integrate it into their workflow. I think that might be something we're going to try to help marketers do. But one of the things that happened, there's a very successful game that recently came out called Pal World, and it's knocked for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is for being kind of like a clone of Pokemon. But what they did is the developers used AI for a lot of the artwork, and the outrage came from artists who normally this is their job, is they're making assets for games and things like that. And they're like, look, this is horrible. This is a tragedy. Like we should be the ones that are getting this work, not using AI to do it, like to see it at a high level, right? Where a game that has, something like 19 million players within a couple of weeks, something like that. And the issue is that the market gets to decide the worth of a product.
Of course.
Right? That's what it comes down to. And there's been people that have come out and said this, and that's gone viral, and they've just, blasted that person. And they're like, look, they made a good game. The people like the game. The people like the assets. That's what matters. And the reality is that you are now competing against AI art if you're in that space.
That's true.
And
so, if you think that just crying about it is going to get you anywhere, you're wasting your time and you're totally missing the point. People have been lifting stuff for others, forever. Take a look at, what happened when people started sampling music, right? We went from Under Pressure to Ice Baby, right? It's the same track where, and to this day, people sample like crazy. Some are more artistic with their sampling than others. Some are more innovative. Some are just straight ripoffs. But that hasn't stopped people from, using other people's licks, and it hasn't stopped the listeners from enjoying a lot of those different tracks. They hear a familiar track. And if you're an artist and you're upset because, people are using AI to create assets for a fraction of the cost that it would take to pay you, then it's okay. Be upset. Go, yell and scream about it into your pillow for a few minutes, and then figure it out. Go figure it out. That's it. This is how it is now. And, there's no amount of yelling, crying, screaming, pushing against it that is going to change that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the same with any content with AI, because you've got the people that are, the market's going to be flooded with low quality content. And, the market's
Have you listened to Top 40 radio?
Yeah.
Like that's all it is for the most part is low quality music.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
So what else is new? There's a reason that McDonald's sells, billions of what do they call those? They call them burgers. They're not food, but they do it, and they do it in bulk because the masses eat it up, because allegedly it's lower cost and it's fast, and we go nom, nom, nom. And it's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with all popular entertainment. The masses, give them their bread and their circus, and they're distracted from what's really important. And so they will eat up the lowest common denominator, both physically and philosophically.
Yes.
Well, I think
that's a profound statement and true, by the way. Just dropping like truth bombs here, Joel. I love it.
Oh, I know. Imagine how we're going to repurpose this.
Casually dropping truth bombs.
Part of it. So I've been awake for many years, and I've watched all of this come about, because again, I'm going to be 60. I've watched the whole this is going to open up a whole can of worms. I remember in the mid 70s, my parents subscribed to National Geographic, and there was a cover story about the coming ice age. And it was like everybody was so panicked because we were all going to freeze to death. And then fast forward 2 decades, and now we're all going to die from heat because of global warming. And then they go back and they say, well, it's both. It's climate change in general. And they have raised 2 generations now on the fear of climate change, and they've raised countless amounts of money to go into projects that end up harming people more than helping them. And it doesn't take a lot to brainwash a generation of people into believing something that isn't necessarily true, that isn't necessarily proven by science. It's really interesting to watch.
And there's the credibility factor that even if something is proven by science, you have to question the science, and that's not allowed anymore.
Yeah.
You can't question.
I do. I
Well, I
question
mean,
all the time.
You should question
people,
everything.
some people do, but a lot of them are vilified. Like, I follow
Sure.
you on Instagram, and I like your posts. I enjoy them. I get a lot of pleasure out of them. And but I remember reading one comment in particular, and it was somebody that was obviously you knew, and I'm so disappointed in what you're saying, Joel. And I was like, wow, like, even if you were 100% wrong, which you weren't, but even if you were, you still are entitled to use your own little tiny microcosm of a platform to say it. But that's just not allowed. And it's not even necessarily, that the government, like in 1984, that the government has done this. It's people that are doing it to each other.
You know who gets away with it? Our modern day prophets. And they've actually been the modern day prophets for years. It's comedians. When you look at somebody like, Dave Chappelle or Ricky Gervais, the ones, that are out there, they say what they want to say. They say what they think. And I'm like, maybe I should just change my career and just say I'm a comedian, even if I'm not funny. Because as a comedian, you could say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Well, and that's when you know it's getting bad, when they start censoring comedians, right?
Yeah.
When they're like, "Hey, Dave, you can't say that." He's like, "Oh yeah," he doubles down and does a whole special on it.
Right. Well, the people who say that to him, anybody who would say to somebody else, "You can't say that," those are the worst people in the world. Yes. What do you mean I can't say that? Who made you the arbiter of what thoughts could be in my head and what words could come out of my mouth?
Or, the other trend I saw too, and this is something that maybe hasn't happened in a while, but this was a big thing a couple of years ago, which was if you had a platform, right? Let's say, Joel, you're still big in the game and stuff, and they were like, "Hey, something happened, some sort of racial violence or something," and they're like, "Hey, Joel, what's your take? Like, we need to know where you stand. What's your opinion?" And you have to give your opinion, and if you don't give your opinion and the right opinion, you're now blacklisted or canceled, whatever. Do you remember that, when it was like, if you don't post this, like, it was that weird virtual signaling, like, you are a bad person?
It's just as bad now. I don't play that game. And, the older I get, the more I'm like, just get off my lawn, punks. This is going nowhere for you. You're not solving anything. You are the problem. But this can get political really quickly. So
I know it can.
I know, and it'd be so fun.
But it's a part of social. It's a part of how the interaction happens. These things are happening. People that are influencers and have platforms, they feel compelled by this and they feel pressure by this. So I feel like it is relevant. I know it is political, but by nature, it's like, well, what do you do as a brand, or what do you do as an influencer? That
depends how much courage you have. Depends if you're willing to weather the storm or not. Nobody cares what I think. Nobody cares what Whoopi Goldberg thinks. Nobody cares what celebrities of any level think. We shouldn't put maybe the problem is we put more weight on it because they're a known personality, right? Nobody gives a rip what Taylor nobody with a brain should give a rip what Taylor Swift thinks about anything. Ever, right? I don't care what you think of her as talent or not, but she's a kid. Like, she doesn't, and she lives in another world. These people are disconnected from reality. Correct. What the real world is like. And honestly, nobody should care what I think. I say what I want to say on social because I want to say it. I don't think I'm influencing anybody. I might be entertaining Kim, to do it, but
you're definitely influencing Kim.
It's just there to say what I want to say. And, I've dabbled with the idea of going back to Facebook, but if I do, I'm going nuclear.
Oh,
like if I come back and I come back to Facebook, I am going to say whatever I want to say, because I'll tell you what, is some of these so-called friends still haven't apologized, either because they are still gutless cowards, or because they still think they're in the right. I was called a Nazi for voting for Trump in 2016. There was people that I had known for years. I'm Jewish, by the way, both sides, mom and dad, that just ostracized me, like kicked me out of groups, literally. And I have no use for that type of humanity. I have never unfriended somebody because of their beliefs. I've only unfriended them for how they've treated me as a human being. But that's not what happened the other way around. And so that's why it's better to not be there. And as many times as I've thought about going back into social and going nuclear, I'm like, why? I don't need the attention.
No.
I don't need people to look at me and I'm not going to change anybody's mind. It's purely an exercise of me being able to just blow off steam and thinking that I'm actually accomplishing something. But there's something to be said for living a quiet life and surrounding yourself with people who actually do care about you, family, friends, and for enjoying each day that God gives us here to have experiences that are meaningful and memorable. And that's really been more the focus of my life. I'm much happier for it.
Definitely.
I agree with all of that. I wish that I was in the position to be able to fully embrace that, and I would. But I will say that there is some value to things that you say on social because one, not a lot of people are saying them. I believe a lot of people think them and agree with you, but we, like me, we don't have a lot of people that we can listen to that are encouraging logical, rational thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I don't know about that. I think there's a lot of content out there, especially in the podcast world. I mean, I think the stuff like even
more
Rogan.
podcasts. Yes.
Rogan is a classic liberal,
doing
but
work.
he is
doing work.
waking up. He is like this stuff. He's like, I don't know where the left went, but they went so far to the left that he finds himself in the middle now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's a ton of people that are having that same experience going, hey, I didn't sign up for this, butchering of children, going through puberty. That's not, they're just looking at it from a common sense going, who hijacked, who moved our cheese?
Right.
And then, on the conservative side, you've got Daily Wire, which is doing a great job and has a large audience. And you've got, Charlie Kirk and YAF. I think there's a lot of content out there. You got even people like Russell Brand, who's found himself, in the center, and Chappelle.
Well, and they tried to bring him
I
down
love Chappelle.
not too long
That's
ago.
and that's how you know. That's how
That's when you
you
know
should be
that-
paying close
Yeah.
attention to what they're saying. If there are people that are scared of what they're saying, then a rational, open-minded person will go, well, why? What are they saying?
Yeah. Why are they trying to
That's so
silence
scary.
this
Why are
person?
they trying to silence them? That makes me want to listen more. Like when I hear that, I immediately want to go and hear, what are they saying?
It is. It's this Streisand effect too. You are right, but I will say, Joel, everybody's unique. I would say you definitely have a lot to share, and a lot of people you could influence, and just even the circles I run at, even just training. Training with a lot of law enforcement, training with a lot of people that are on the front lines, dealing with these problems of our society. Every day in difficult situations, and they're like, man, it's when you have these real conversations with them and they go, okay, I'm not crazy. I hear that all the time, like, okay, good, I'm not crazy. I just talked to a lawyer a couple weeks ago, and he's just like, oh man, yeah, I feel like I'm going crazy because I see all these narratives, I see all these things, and it feels like I'm the crazy one.
It's not real. The narratives aren't real. Listen, there are people out there, millions of people out there, who still think that when they're watching the network or cable news, that they're actually getting news. They still believe that. They still trust that what is being delivered to them is unbiased, actual news. They don't understand that it's scripted, that it's entertainment, that it's there to cause fear so that they can sell toothpaste and toilet paper. It's to create a narrative. It's to buy votes. It's all designed to manipulate. And once you have your eyes open, once you see, once you can process, and once you can admit that you were duped, that's a really hard thing. For me, it came very early. It came when I was still in my 20s and I had my eyes opened. But for a lot of people, the older you get, the more ingrained and entrenched you become in your way of thinking. And it's very hard to change that thinking because our pride is so strong. And to admit that we were lied to and we embraced it is a hard pill to swallow.
And
It's a
perpetuated it.
huge
Yeah.
blow to our pride. But you
It
know
is.
what? We have to be willing to change and adapt. And I would rather live an uncomfortable truth than a comfortable lie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's so many ways I could go.
And none of it is digital marketing, by the way,
It's
right? And
not,
this
but
is
it's an interesting conversation. It does apply because we as influencers, as businesses, as marketers, we have to deal with this because this is the environment and this is the market now, and these are the cultural forces and influences that are impacting our customers and prospects and our message to the world.
and I
Right?
think I can bring that home for you, Colin, back to digital marketing. I think it's, I want to encourage people to have the courage to stand by their convictions. When you do that, you're going to alienate some of your customer base, but you're also going to reinforce those who appreciate and applaud, that you're standing for something. And that's risky, but business is risky. And if you're walking on eggshells because there's something you want to say in your business and you're not, then you're not being authentic. And what do we always teach people in marketing is, the
Be
most important
transparent.
thing, authenticity. I don't have any personal feelings about Mike Lindell and My Pillow. I just know that he took sides, and I'm not sure how well his business is doing. I know they try to take him down as well. I've never owned a My Pillow, so I don't know. But he's a perfect example of, what, this is where I stand. This is what I believe. This is how we're going to run our business. And if you don't like
Right.
it, then go buy somebody
Yeah.
else's product. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And usually it does well. People respect you for that,
Yeah.
for taking a stand.
Well, to bring this around to AI a little bit, which I'm okay if we don't, but
I'm okay with the free flow. This is great.
it's awesome.
This is,
But
by the way, this is what happens. I don't do very many interviews these days, partially for this reason. People want to talk about something from the business world, and I end up talking about what's really more near and dear to my heart right now in our world.
I would talk about
we're
this every
fine
week
with
with you
that.
if you
Oh
let
yeah.
me. I
Yeah.
love this. It's great. And I'm just like, oh man, this is great. This is
Well,
great.
this is an AI question that actually kind of like encompasses everything we've been talking about. And it also brings up something that Colin had mentioned earlier, which was the deep fake that went on,
Yeah.
where the guy wired all those, millions or not billions of
It's like
dollars.
$125 million.
Yeah,
He's a
a lot.
CFO to
And that is
you know,
technology
actor.
that is 100% available because of AI.
Mm-hmm.
It is, it just wasn't there
It's gonna get
before
better.
AI. And people talk about the ethical considerations of AI. And mostly when they're talking about that, they're like, well, is it being biased towards, the less represented members of society? And instead of looking at ethical considerations like, is it going to be used to completely fool people 100%
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
about who they're talking to? Like, is
Mhm.
this really, Joel?
Absolutely. And here's the thing. There's always been bad people, and there will always be bad people, and there will be people with questionable ethics that have no problem stealing from others, right? It happens all the time. I think those people are actually less dangerous than the people of power. The
Regulating.
people that are in government, the world power brokers, I think are far more threatening with how they will use AI to monitor our lives, to control our lives, to give us social credit scores, and to harass people that are political opponents. I think they're way scarier than your common street thug.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about scammers. We're talking about, the human debris of the world that have no, they're sociopaths that have no concern for how their interactions harm others. I actually encountered one, and this happened before AI. I've been a victim of both romance scams and now crypto scams for probably about 15 years. When I first discovered that that scammers were using my photo to hit up on women in the Philippines and other places around the world. And they weren't using AI, but they were taking video clips of me from Zooms. And, because Zoom can break up, sometimes the audio doesn't match the video, and they were overlaying words telling these women like they were on a phone call with them, how much they love them. And all of a sudden, after building this relationship, boy, I came on hard times and I really need $10,000. And so I have, over the last 15 years, heard from hundreds of people that have written me, sometimes just to alert me, hey, somebody's using your photo on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the different dating sites, foreign sites, all the way from, hey, somebody's using your picture, to, you son of a bitch, I can't believe you stole this money from me. And I'm like, so I had to do this years ago, probably 10 years ago. I set up a page at comm.us/scam that says what to do if you've been contacted by somebody who looks like me. And the first thing I tell them is, I can't do anything to help you.
No.
This is what you need to do. So I had to stop responding to these people. And sometimes they were just brokenhearted. They fell in love with whoever this avatar was that they thought they were talking to, sometimes for months, that ended up taking them for thousands of dollars. And now they're brokenhearted on top of everything else. This is before AI. So now that people have the tools to do this even easier, it's easy to duplicate. They can sample our voices and put it in 11 labs and make us say whatever we want to say. It's not that hard to take our picture and to make our mouth and our lips move to sync with that. And it looks very real. And so we're going to see more and more of this happen. There's no question about it, which is why it's important that you have a safe question with your loved ones, especially, your aging mom or dad is going to get a call, and all of a sudden they hear your voice saying, hey, Mom, you're not going to believe this. I'm in real trouble. I need you to send money to blah, blah, blah real fast. Right. So what you should do is you should tell your loved one, if you ever get a call like that, ask me this question.
Correct.
Okay? And you come up with the question, and then you tell them what the answer is. So when somebody comes on, they sound like me, ask them whatever the question is. What movie did you take me to when I was 10 years old in Boston? Right. Maybe they'll remember that, and then they know the answer. And if the person on the other end of the phone doesn't give the correct answer, you just found a scammer.
Yep. No, that's good. Yeah, we've got like call outs, because we use those for tactical stuff, which you say, hey, sugar. Well, if I don't hear spice, then that's not ours, by the way. But then you're dealing with someone who's not a friendly. But thank you for giving me I got my whole 2024 business plan now. So I'm just gonna make a fake Joel Comm. Now that I know that that's pretty profitable. No,
it's worked. It has worked.
No, but you're absolutely right. And I used to I dealt with this actually just a couple weeks ago. Something similar, where it was just social engineering, and I got duped. And I'm somebody who it was really embarrassing actually for me to admit this, because I'm someone who'd be like, I'm savvy, I'm a gamer, this would never happen to me, and I just kind of fell for it. And that's only going to get worse now that things are going to be powered by AI. But like you said, Joel, I fear regulation. Like when I hear AI regulation, my yellow, they're not even yellow flags, red flags go off, because I'm like, wait a second. To me, that means we can have it, but you can't. And we means like the big businesses or the elite or the people that are lobbying the politicians for these regulations. They'll have the immunity to that. The government's always going to have this technology. They're always going to be years ahead of the civilians. We know that just from kind of like military contracts and things like that. Sometimes there's advancements, but then of course the government will quickly take it. And so that's what I fear, is that type of, when I hear about regulations, the alarm bells go off, because I'm thinking like, that means we won't have these tools. So I'm all for the open market. And I realize that that's scary for some people, but there's always going to be bad actors. This is just a tool, and it's always going to be in the hands of the elite and the big businesses. So we want to make sure that everybody else can have access to the powerful tools as well.
I agree.
Hey, it's interesting, just listening to the conversation. One way you came about combating the bad actors trying to pretend like they're you, and it's only going to get worse, was something very low tech and very easy. Like
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
back when my kids were little, we had a word, and it was airplane. And so if anyone
Well,
ever said, "Oh, your mom said come pick you up," and then my kids were supposed to say, "What's the word?" And
right.
I mean, it was something so simple like that because they were just little. And
Yeah.
but really, the antidote to some of this high tech is incredibly low tech. I mean,
Yeah. Good point.
it's just communication.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah,
Just being human.
yeah, exactly.
When did all right, so I'm gonna take us back off the rails. Okay.
Let's
When
go on that
when
crazy
did
thing.
you, because I can talk about my personal experience and I'd love to, because I love to talk about myself. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. I want to
Good.
know more about you, Joel. What led to you waking up to, hey, things aren't the way I thought they were. I grew up, I was raised a certain way. I
Mhm,
had a belief and a perspective of the
mhm.
world. And what was it, a moment? Was it a thing? Was it a slow, gradual thing that caused you to go, wait a second, things aren't as they appear to be?
Well, it's always gradually then suddenly, right? Because we usually don't just wake up. It's even like in the morning, you rarely just pop your eyes wide open. You kind of wake up slow and brush the gunk away and open your eyes and close them. And it's waking up is a process. For me, it was two things. It was I remember being, must have been in 1988. So I was out of college, and like all young people, I was going to vote Democrat because I think it was either Winston Churchill or Ronald Reagan that is attributed with saying, if you're young and you don't vote Democrat, you don't have a heart. If you're not older and you don't vote Republican, you don't have a brain.
Mm-hmm.
So, like all young people, fight the power. Like the Democrats are for the people because that's what we were told. And I remember watching SNL, and they had this commercial, the spoof commercial, and it was because George Bush Sr. was running against Michael Dukakis for president, and Dukakis is younger and more vibrant, and they show both of their wives, Barbara Bush, who's older looking, and Kitty Dukakis, who was younger and more beautiful. And the fake commercial ended with "Vote Dukakis. His wife looks just fine." And I thought it was funny, but at the same time, I thought, are they trying to tell me what to do and think? And I started going down the rabbit hole of what, Democrats actually believe, what Republicans believe, and what they said they were going to do. Now I know they're one uniparty and they both suck. But back then, I started thinking, just questioning for myself. The other thing that happened was really my spiritual awakening. And that kind of happened right around the same time as a child of two Jewish parents. Well, doesn't that mean you practice Judaism, and was raised that, this is what Jews do, and Jesus Christ is for the Gentiles. And I started going, well, why? Who says? And I went on my own spiritual hunt, and I started reading and absorbing all kinds of content dealing with everything from New Age mysticism, Eastern religions and meditation, and astral projection, to examining what I thought were other churches at the time, whether they were Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormonism. I looked into Scientology. I looked into so many different things, and then I ended up like reading the Bible and then investigating the claims and historicity of the Bible. And I needed to apply my rational mind. I'm like, what tradition is one thing. That's what, Fiddler of the Roof, which I grew up watching. Tradition,
Mm-hmm.
everything is
Mm-hmm.
tradition. I'm like, tradition is great, but I want to know what's real. And I was the only one in my family really that pushed against the grain. And, I became a Christian in 1988 because I was convinced. I'm like, you know what, this gets through my rational mind and penetrates into my heart. And that's where I've been ever since. At the time, I remember families saying, oh, it's just a fad he's going through. But, again,
Yeah.
once your eyes see and once you're awake, hard to go back to sleep.
Yeah, can't ignore it. But that sounds like that's a really great story. Sounds a hard thing to do too, without your family supporting you, right? Or maybe
Mhm.
not supporting you, but at least questioning what you're doing. Go, that's a phase. It's gonna
Yeah.
grab it.
I remember reading Hal Lindsey back then, the late great Planet Earth, and he
Uh-huh.
would talk in there about, that there was prophecies in the Bible about the mark of the beast, and that there one day there would be a mark that people would have to take, either on their hand or their head in order to buy, sell, and transact, to be part of society. And nobody could have seen when that was written thousands of years ago, and nobody could have seen, even when he was saying it, the technology that we would have today, or that is coming, that you will buy or sell based on an implant that is on your body. We know biometrics are a very real thing. Every time I go to the airport, I go through Clear, they scan my eyeballs and they go, that's who this is. They let them on the plane. That mark,
Now,
whatever you want to call it, is coming. That technology will exist. And I'm like, this is nothing new to me. I've been watching for this for 40 years now. We knew this was coming, and now it's here. Surprise. Not really.
Yeah.
no,
And
okay. I won't get started on prophecy because that is like
yeah, we'll get Kim going.
Okay, get me started on that because I am like that is eschatology is my thing, and funny enough, how I came to my faith was pretty much the same
Yeah,
journey
through
as
prophecy.
yours. It was right after college, and I studied everything like a madwoman, and then the final tipping point for me was I read Left Behind, and I was like, and then I researched, and for 2 years, and that's how things started clicking for me. And I look at AI and this, there's this part of me that's like, bring it, because this is just bringing us closer to everything that was already been, prophesized about.
Yeah.
None of us get out of here alive, right? We're
Nope.
here for a short time, and then there's eternity. So we make the best of what we've got right now.
Yeah. Well, you
I'm
could kind of
I'm not nervous for me and my generation. I'm nervous for this generation of children that are just being completely indoctrinated and
Oh
being
yeah.
raised in the public schools on a diet of insanity. I
yeah.
remember when reading, writing, and arithmetic in civics, like you got people coming out of college now that can't answer basic civics questions, and then they go and vote. That's
Yeah.
scary.
It is. Yeah, and raising a 3-year-old, I'm trying to, he's going to be well.
Homeschool.
Yeah, it's weird. I never thought that I would be considering that, and now I'm like, uh, yeah, we could go down
If
rabbit
you
holes
don't,
here.
you're just sending them off to be indoctrinated.
Get
That's it.
indoctrinated. Yeah, that's definitely
They
not
will
going to
have
happen.
more time under the influence of
Correct.
people that are interested in their agenda only than in educating your child than you
Yeah.
will have with them.
Yeah, and so now I'm, very vigilant about what he is allowed to be influenced by and who has influence over him, because, and not that like I need to control him. It's like, no, I want him to
Protect.
yeah, it's protection. I want him to find himself in the world and find what he enjoys, and have his own spiritual awakening, and all of these things. But I want to be able to cultivate, healthy things and build a good foundation and have good values. And I don't want things coming in corrupting him at a young age that he shouldn't even be concerning himself with.
Yeah.
So that's just
And
my
keep
take.
them asking why. I think that's one of the most important questions that
Yeah.
kids when they're little, your son's age, they start asking why.
Yeah.
Why?
And then you got to
To the point where it
articulate.
makes you insane. But you know what? That's the best question they can be asking.
It's
It
a
is.
great question. I think the key is teaching your kids not what to think, but how to think.
Yes.
Rather than telling them that they should believe this and they should believe that, asking questions and helping them understand how to come to conclusions by asking questions, by evaluating, by doing your own research. I think that's way more important. Now you're equipping somebody that whatever the world throws at them, they're going to go, huh, is that true? That's kind of how I look when I go read a news story now. I look at it, and if it's sensational one way or the other, if it seems like somebody could benefit from that headline, I go, what's the truth behind that? And I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm not agreeing that it is, because there's somebody trying to press an agenda here. Who is it? What's their motivation?
Yep. Well, unfortunately, we're kind of in a place now where you have to kind of check the validity of almost everything, because it is really, difficult to discern the truth. I feel like discernment is one of the most important skills now that you can develop. And I think it was the CEO of the Wall Street Journal recently said at the WEF gathering something like, we used to be, people didn't used to question us. We could put out the news and that was the truth and people accepted it. But now they're asking us questions and we have to prove what we're saying and they're not believing us. And I almost feel like they were kind of saying the quiet part out loud. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good thing. That's how
Well,
it should
here's
be.
case in point. Even the internet is not reliable. For example, I just did you guys know that I was a weatherman at one time?
No.
I did not.
Well, that's because I wasn't. But if you go to ChatGPT and ask it, was Joel Comm ever a weatherman? Based on a quick search, here's what I found. Yes, Joel Comm began his career as a radio personality where he worked as a weatherman. He later transitioned to other roles, including a mobile disc jockey, and eventually moved into internet marketing. Where's that from? Wikipedia. It's just wrong.
That's on Wikipedia?
It's on my Wikipedia page. I've given up on trying to correct it because the power hungry Wikipedia editors, which is what they are. These are the people who truly are living out of their mom's basement.
Yes.
This gives them a sense of power. They won't accept any edits on it. I'm like, fine, I guess I was a weatherman. So let's rewrite my history. But by virtue of that, now ChatGPT has wrong
Correct.
information. So you can't trust OpenAI or any of these either to give you absolute knowledge or truth because they're being fed wrong information.
Yeah, it is a real problem.
Well, and it's going to get worse because it's really coming to the point where you won't know when you're on a Zoom call or you're doing a podcast who you're actually talking to. And
that too.
I work in cybersecurity and in my day job. And it's amazing how they're working so hard to come up with digital identities and ways to circumvent these issues.
Mm-hmm.
But they have no solution at this point.
No. And you have a real problem with kind of what Joel was saying. That example is a good example of kind of like a self-perpetuation of false information. Because what happens is it starts with a Wikipedia article and then it moves to maybe AI generated content, and then it starts reiterating it, and it becomes the truth at that point that you are a weatherman. And I've used this example before, but I'm going to use a really nerdy example here, but this is the one I can think of. But there's I play Magic the Gathering. It's a card game. There's thousands of cards, and people love to build these decks with different cards, right? So there's a website that recommends cards for certain decks, right? So you can put in like a card and say, hey, I want to build a deck for this. And it's going to aggregate all of the decks that people have built. And what happens is you end up with people that keep choosing those cards off of that website because those are the cards that other people chose. And then again and again and again. And you start to get this like range of cards that are just like not good. But they're getting recommended and they have high percentages of decks because more people are using that site and more people are putting those cards in their decks. And I'm using that as the example of like, it's like the more people that use this and perpetuate this information that isn't really good or accurate, it could be just bad. In this case, it's bad advice. But this could also happen with something that is untrue. And then it starts to become true. It's like, well, no, that is a good card to put in that deck. Well, no, you are a weatherman because it says it everywhere. So you have to be, right?
It must be true.
Yeah.
Well, and what's that saying? History is written by the winners.
Yeah. Well, not always. I mean, yes, that is a saying, but I wouldn't say the people that are writing that I'm a weatherman are winners.
Well, no. But what I am saying is that you can be in situations where if you have a voice and you want to use it, which is why I was encouraging you to go back to social media. If you have a voice and you want to use it, you can reach a lot of people and convince a lot of minds. And I know you say, oh, I'm not going to convince anybody of anything.
I just don't know that's true.
I don't either. I want to hear what Joel says, but I don't either.
I don't think that's true. I think you end up preaching to the choir, speaking to the echo chamber. I think if you were to take a survey of how many people have their minds changed by engaging on social media, it's infinitesimal. I think you're going to have if I wanted to have an impact, it's going to be from having one-on-one conversations with people face to face, sitting down with somebody over a sandwich and talking about the issues of the day. I don't think it's going to happen from broadcasting my brain vomit out to the world on Facebook.
But it makes those other people with the same brain vomit feel better because they're like, yeah, I'm not alone.
Yeah. Okay.
It does.
Well, I'll just tell you this: you're not alone. In fact, I think you're probably in the majority.
Probably, I think it's a silent majority. I don't know who said this, but I've come to agree. It might have been Jordan Peterson, because I have these conversations with my mom.
Isn't he a Nazi? Somebody.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
he was
totally.
a Nazi.
Yeah, definitely. He's white, so he must be.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in trouble on this show. So, and they said, "Yeah, we're done at cancel." And they said,
and it's over.
These people do not. These people, who are these people? Well, people who believe a certain ideology. I'm just going to say it that way because we kind of know what we're dealing with. They don't wake up until they're in the concentration camp. That's how far it has to go. Yeah. And so when you realize, if you realize it, because you're like, what does it take to get through these people? It's like you can't. It doesn't happen. Yeah. So I don't know if that's true, but
I'm probably going to remain blissfully happy not being on social. And I think I have a few followers on Instagram where I share a story and I drop a quick little tidbit of info, and even that's rare. I just don't see a point. Yeah. Nobody's asking me what I think, and so who cares?
I am.
We had a whole hour of asking.
Yeah, we're interested. Yeah,
it just flew by too, didn't it? I just realized.
It really did. It really did.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, especially knowing your time is rarely put in this, arena.
Definitely.
It makes it even more valuable to us.
I won't say no to. So thank you for asking me, and it's been fun.
Yep. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Joel. Any advice for businesses, marketers, people like us who are, looking at 2024 going giant question mark, and now we got AI. What do we do? What's your advice? You've been in the game a long time. What do we do? Yeah, you got to figure out which tools are going to benefit you the most, and get out there and learn how to use them. Don't stay stuck in the old ways of doing things, because you will wake up one day and discover that you're irrelevant, that nobody knows what you're doing anymore, because others have been forward thinking and are leveraging these tools. So don't be afraid. Embrace it. It's still early. It's still so early with AI. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Well, thank you so much, Joel. This has been great. If I ever am in Puerto Rico, I'd love to come say hi, and sounds like you got a great thing going there. So awesome. That'd be great. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much, Joel. All right. Well, that was amazing. That was awesome. I could talk with him for hours. Maybe this will be Patreon only content. I don't know. Yeah, that's okay. This is a little, we deviated a little bit from our usual format. AI Advantage After Dark. Very cool. Anything you want to add, Kim? No, I'm just sitting here processing everything and just really basking in the joy of the conversation. Yeah. Yeah. There were so many things I could have brought up and talked about. Like, I've had experience with the brand getting impersonated. It was a real problem. One of the places I worked at, it was a real problem. We're dealing with a very high level influencer in the spiritual space, who people were stealing tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars from people, and making imposter accounts. I hadn't even really thought about that, but wow, the potential is there. It's going to get really bad now. And because it was an older demographic, right? We're dealing with, 60 plus aged females are very susceptible to this type of social engineering. That's going to be a real problem. And then I could have, a lot of ways. I used to be in TV news. That's where I got my start. So there's a lot of things to talk about, but just not enough time. So one of these days I'll have to interview you. Sure. Oh yeah, we can go into it. Yeah. Normally I don't talk about these things, but Joel kind of pulled it all out. I'm like, we're reading from the same script, so it's real easy to do. So Anyway,
See,
thank
that's
you
why I like to
guys.
follow him on Instagram, because every now and
I
then
know.
he
I
will
know.
drop something, and I'm like, yes.
Oh, I'd love to see him go Facebook and go nuclear. That would be great. Yeah,
Wouldn't
we'll
that
have
be
to see if we can get him to do
awesome?
that. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for watching. We will see you next week, same time, same place. Talk to you later.
Have a great week.